First, I will shortly talk about the LS Central for Pharmacy as a product. So this is a pharmacy software for pharmacies of all sizes. It manages various types of prescriptions, handles drugs efficiently, and keeps tracks of the pharmaceutical stock across all stores. It covers the daily routines in a pharmacy from back office to POS. It supports effective data structure for medication and efficient handling of pharmaceuticals. User can enter and search products in the system through different dimensions, everything from substance, ATC group, strength, classification, to warning text, product description, quantity in pack, daily dose, and more. This is based on LS Central and Business Central. It handles all standard prescription processes, like prescription handling. It covers the basic, like paper prescription, the classic one, the new one, the electronic ones, emergency, and many more. It has generic substitution, where you can switch out the prescribed product for a generic substitution or parallel substitution. It has integration framework for e-prescriptions and insurance, pharmaceutical control, pick control, and FMD control. Animal prescriptions, it has order requests when item is not on stock, and subscriptions. Pharmacy-specific user permissions. It has customer identification, pharmacy customer database or link to national registry, handling of power of attorney and care units. It has master data import and management. It handles pharmaceutical items, item groups, including ATC and substance groups, and health personnel, to mention some. This is based on what we call the LEGO methodology, and this will be covered in more details by Stefan later on in this webinar. But quickly outlined, it is based in layers, where the MS Dynamics 365 is the foundation, and then we have built on top of that different functionalities, and on the top is the counter integration. Before I go into the first demo today, I want to go briefly through how the flow is. And you start with the customer identification. And once you found the customer, you can access more information about him. You will then either download prescriptions or prescription if you have the electronic ones, as will be demonstrated today, or you can add the manual paper prescription. Once you have started working on your prescription, you will select the items that are going to be delivered to the customer, and you will calculate the cost. Next step would be the technical control. Then you move into picking the items, printing labels, and go into the final control. Then you have finalized everything you need for actually delivering the medication to the customer, receiving the payment, and then of course you mark receipt as closed and do like insurance invoicing and all the things that are needed in the end of the flow. So I'm demonstrating two different user interfaces today. I will start with the classic user interface. I will be going through similar prescription in both of those. And the classic UI is based on the back office of the LS Central for pharmacy. And then we have the newer UI, which is the POS UI or Flex UI. Currently, we have customers using the classic user interface in Trinidad and Tobago, Iceland, and this is the one that's going to be used with our UK customer. The POS UI will be used in both Norway and Sweden. And the main difference is that the POS UI is maybe more convenient when you're working in close contact with the customer. So you have the POS and the prescription process at your fingertips. Don't need to switch between them, as I will show later on. So this is, as most of you will recognize, this is the back office or the role center in NAV or Business Central. And to start prescription process in LS Central for Pharmacy, you need to start with customer service. So once you click on that, you will get a pop-up where you can add the customer ID. In this case, it's the number, the social security number, or it could be the name, address, whatever you want to search by. In this case, we have found the customer Mari Garcia. And up here we have, we can have different buttons to do different things. You can open the customer card, but we are going directly into the e-prescriptions, and that opens another pop-up. And here we can view all e-prescriptions in a database we have access to. Could be a local database or could be a integrated database from the authorities. In this case, we have 2 prescriptions. I'm gonna select, that's the blue one here, select that one, and click on OK. This opens up the prescription for processing, and first I notice here you have both gray fields and you have white fields. The gray fields are locked for editing, and the white ones are the ones I can actually edit. Because this is an e-prescription, I'm not able to edit information that was downloaded and are fixed by that. So then we have 3 sections. We have the general section, issued item and delivered item section, and we have the dose withdrawal section as well. The top one, this is general information, tells us when the prescription was issued, who the issuer or the prescriber is. The prescriber is usually a doctor, but could be a nurse or a pharmacist. We have a customer. We have the number of the customer and the name of the customer. Then in the next section, in the issued item and delivered item, the issued item is the item prescribed by the issuer. So this is what the issuer wants the customer to have. And then we have what is actually going to be delivered. And in this case, both the delivered item and the quantity, they are both white. So I could actually do a generic substitution and give out a different product. If it's an e-prescription that is locked, you could actually have block substitution, and then you will not be able to edit either the issued item, the delivered item, or the quantity. In the bottom section, you have, if it's a multiple withdrawal prescription like this one is, then you have that here. And you see you have 4 withdrawals and 4 remaining. So this is the first withdrawal of the 4. And down here we have the prescription order dose text. So this is how to take the medication instructions for the customer. So if everything looks good, I'm going to click on confirm. By clicking on confirm, I change the new status into reserved, and I reserve on stock this quantity. And I have here as well grayed out the dose text. So I have fixed that. I can't change that. In this case, I'm going to do auto pick. Click on that. I get a pop-up. Do you want to mark the line as picked? Yes, I do want that. And then I have it now reserved and picked. I'm clicking on approve. Status changes to approved. And I click on next step. Next step moves the prescription order into what we call approved prescription orders. And that is basically you have finalized all work needed on that. And you can now deliver it to customer either through POS or that means you do hand over the medication to the customer. So this concludes the classic view demo, And now we move into the POS UI demo. So this is the customer service view in the POS UI. And we need to enter the social security number in here. And then click on search or tab and enter. And we get Mari Garcia again. We could click up here and get additional information about it. So it's the same POS UI as the LS Central user are used to. You can add buttons, information, everything as needed. I'm going to click on back and go into e-prescriptions, see all. Down here. I get a list of 3 e-prescriptions. I'm selecting the bottom one. I could, of course, click on select all, or I could select 2 out of the 3. That's easy. It's green, and I could click on the down arrow, which would give me more information as well on that particular prescription. I'm clicking on continue. And now I have here information. This is an e-prescription. The E stands for that. Panadol, this is what was prescribed. This is what is going to be delivered. I can click on the edit button. That would give me generic substitution. This case, I'm not going to do that. This all looks good, so I'm doing the same as last in the classic one. I'm clicking on confirm. And the next one is barcode control. So in the classic UI, I did hit auto pick, and barcode control is basically equivalent to that. So when I click on that, I get this pick control screen here. And now I scan the barcode. When I scan the barcode, I get a green line here. Green line tells me I'm free to continue because I have scanned the line. It would be gray if I would have had 2 boxes and I would have only scanned 1. At this time, you could print the labels, and you could print all labels or part of them. It's up to when you want. So once I'm good here, I click on close. And now I go into final control. Final control, which is performed by a pharmacist. In this case, the pharmacist logged in is Lena Dahl. So I'm able to do the final control. I compare what was issued to what is delivered. I see the original dose text and the dose text that is going to be delivered. I could, if there would be there's a counter here for number of interactions and interventions. I could click on that if there are any interactions or interventions. This all looks good, and I click on approve. And I could click on pay later, and then I could just start the process again. Or in this case, I'm clicking on to pause. By doing that, it moves the prescription order from approved prescriptions into the pause automatically. And now I could, of course, scan in different items, toothpaste, creams, whatever is needed, just regular LS Central pause. What I'm going to do is I'm clicking here on the approved prescription to pause. You see here Mari Garcia has 1. I select that one. This is the one I did in the classic view. I click on OK, and now I have in my pause both the prescriptions Mari Garcia is supposed to have. I will click on payment, cash, OK. And I have finalized just as a regular LS Central pause sale. All is done, and now I can close this, and you will see the receipt from this. This is just a simple one, just stating the products that were on the prescription. But this could be including the customer's name, the prescription order number, more details, how many withdrawals are on that prescription, etc. But this is the basic one. And the final step of the journey from the prescription from the beginning to the end is they will end up in posted prescription orders, where you have then posted everything you need. You have issued invoices to the insurance companies, and you have finalized everything in that journey. Now, this concludes my part of the presentation, and Stefan, you're next.
Hello, my name is Stefan. I am the product director for LS Pharmacy, and yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about LS Pharmacy and integrations. LS Central for Pharmacies is a solution to serve different types of customers. And if you look at the customers in a typical pharmacy, we could have young families with their needs. They're probably in a hurry, need different types of items, both drugs, but also items that do not require a prescription. We have those that are active, maybe looking for nutrition and so on. We have people with chronic illnesses that may, for example, require a subscription. And we have senior citizens that, for example, could not be in a hurry, or maybe not as likely to use some omnichannel or online ways of ordering, and there might be some price focus. All this tells us that LS Central Pharmacies needs to serve different customer groups. We have those that want to order online and have easy checkout, for example, in a self-service terminal. We have customers requiring a subscription, and for that we have a small subscription module in LS Central for Pharmacies that allows the pharmacy to set up subscription plan for both prescriptions, but also nutrition and other non-prescription items. Then we have the advisory and service role of a pharmacy, both informally being able to advise the customer during a regular visit, but also to book an appointment to have a more formal advice on something. Could be blood pressure monitoring, advice on how to use certain medicines, so on, and that is usually charged for by the pharmacy. And for this, we can add the LS activity module on top of LS Pharmacy to enable bookings of resources and facilities. Then for the health and beauty section, nutrition and so on, we are of course relying on the standard LS Central solution with the retail functionality, cross sales, up sales, offers, and so on. So all this is a part of LS Central for Pharmacy, including LS Central and LS Activity. Unified commerce. LS Central for Pharmacy supports unified commerce. It is the goal is to make it possible to handle prescriptions ordered in different channels, not only in the pharmacy but also in various online channels. And the solution we've opted for is to extend the customer orders in LS Central, for those of you that are familiar with them, to support not only retail items but also items that require a prescription. For any prescription being ordered either online or on site, you always need the pharmacy process. You need the pharmacist to control the prescription. You need to print out labels, possibly do a substitution and so on. So you always need that pharmaceutical process before you can hand out a customer order, either as a click and collect or shipment. Then the customer order is posted as normally from POS or sales order. We do provide basic web services for the omnichannel part, but some customization is to be expected in each market. And then the customers implementing prescription omnichannel solutions need to connect to the government's e-prescription database, either by using the connection already maybe in place in LS Central for Pharmacies, or using their own solution to do that. As Henrik mentioned, we are basing the system on the Lego methodology, meaning that LS Central for Pharmacies is based on Business Central for Microsoft and on the well-known LS Central retail solution. Then on top of that, we have a Lego brick called LS Central for Pharmacies that we put on top of LS Central. It's a relatively low footprint solution, so it's not intrusive into the core LS Central solution. And on top of that, we have then the country integrations, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. So you can more or less add and remove both LS Pharmacy and the country integrations as Lego bricks without touching the core solutions. By doing this using LS Central and Business Central, we of course get access to functionality available in these two large solutions, including ERP functionality, good loyalty program, and so on. The main building blocks of LS Central for Pharmacies are, for example, people. We do need a pharmacy customer for anyone that comes into the pharmacy and needs a prescription. This customer does not have to be created as a customer in Business Central. It does not have to be created, he or she, as a member. So we have a specific entity called a pharmacy customer where we register those customers that come into the pharmacy to pick up prescriptions. We also need to keep track of the issuers, doctors, nurses, and so on, that prescribe the items. They can have rights, so we need to validate that actually they have the rights to prescribe the items being prescribed. And then we need to keep track of the people working in the pharmacy. For example, you can have a technician that can do most things and a pharmacist that can do everything, including approving a prescription before it's delivered to a customer. Usually, some kind of a pharmacist approval is needed before the prescription is handed over to the customer. For the items, we have built a table called pharmacy item, which basically adds extra fields or extra information to the item table in Business Central. So you can think of it as an extension on the regular item table. And then we have the pharmacy product table, which holds information that can be common for different items that are the same. For example, you can have an item like ibuprofen, 600 milligrams, sold in a pack of 30 and a pack of 100. These are two items, but it's the same product because it's just the pack size that's different. Then we create that as one pharmacy product with two items for a 30 pack and a 100 pack. Then we have the prescriptions. We have a structure for a prescription order. So an order contains information about the customer, the pharmacy, and the date. And then for each order, we have one or more lines for each prescription. So you can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 prescriptions in an order, either all from the same doctor or from different doctors. The functionality includes payment handling. The payments are handled using the LS Central POS. So as such, LS Pharmacy or LS Central Pharmacies does not have any payment handling. It uses the one in LS Central. Pricing is in most cases also based on the LS Central price mechanism, which includes discount pricing, loyalty pricing, and so on, as much as applicable. There's a functionality, as I mentioned, for subscriptions, if the customer wants to subscribe for prescriptions or other items. And one of the most important parts of the building blocks are the event publishers, which is kind of the building block for the local integrations, where we can publish events where the local integrations subscribe to. For example, you subscribe to the customer event to look up in the national registry or the customer database of that country. You subscribe to the e-prescription event to download a list of e-prescriptions for a customer. And then we have an event for insurance or reimbursement calculations to calculate how much the customer should pay and how much part of the bill usually is handled by the government. In many cases, either the government or private insurance are paying a part of the bill for the medicine. To localize the solution, there are a couple of things to bear in mind. First of all, the solution is based on LS Central 1402. It only runs in the Windows client at the moment. We're planning to upgrade to AL and 1516 of Business Central next year. The solution is fairly large. It has about 900 objects. And to localize it, you in many cases, or most cases, need to integrate with your e-prescription database in your country, integrate with some kind of a reimbursement or insurance calculation, and you need to integrate with your local customer registry. Then drugs are quite regulated. So in most countries, the government actually provides a drug master database. Here in Iceland, that is imported once a month. In Sweden, it's imported once a day, but it's a standard master data that needs to be imported into the system. And in many cases, because the government is paying a part of the cost for the medicine, the prices are also regulated. So in most cases for localization, you need some kind of item master data import. Then some local rules are expected to be implemented, reimbursement, substitution rules, so on, and some local labels that you hand out or print and put on the medicine that you're handing out. For the localization and licensing, you always need to license LS Central and LS Central Pharmacies to use the solution. And for some market, LS Retail also sells the localization at a price. So it comes at an additional price in addition to the LS Central and standard pharmacy license. In other markets, your partners and the partners need to localize the solution before it can be used in your local market. And typically, the localization from a technical perspective consists of event subscribers for the prescription insurance customers, some new functions to do local business logic, new fields and tables, for example, item and customer table, some new tables and pages. You may expect to have to modify 10, 20, 30 standard pages and to translate the solution. So the effort of localizing LS Central for Pharmacies is larger than just localizing a standard retail solution, because you need to take into account local rules and in most cases also local web services for e-prescription and so on. As an example of a localization is the e-prescription list that Henrik demoed. You have identified the customer. The customer has some e-prescriptions in a database or a gateway hosted by a government. So in the blue part of the screen, we have LS Pharmacy or LS Central Pharmacy's standard solution. In the green part, we have the localization, and the orange part is then the government database. We've identified the customer that publishes an event to ask for e-prescriptions. And in the localization layer, there is a subscriber or code unit that calls a web service from the government to get a list of e-prescriptions that this customer has in the customers or in the government's prescription database. You get a response back that is presented to the user or the employee in the pharmacy that selects one or more prescriptions to work with, and that then fires another event that the localization subscriber subscribes to and tells the government that now this prescription is being handled in this pharmacy and logs it for use in other pharmacies. So that's a typical example of how a localization works. You create a code unit that subscribes to events and connects to government web services. To summarize, with LS Central for Pharmacies, you can handle the daily routines in your pharmacy. You can manage different types of prescriptions and handle drugs effectively. You can keep track of stock across the stores, do replenishment, manage user access and permissions, define your user interface in a modern way using either the back office or pages user interface or one based on the POS. You have the data structure for medication. You can use the solution as a standalone prescription and dispensing solution, or you can use it as a full ERP solution with LS Central and Business Central from Microsoft. You can complement it with additional solutions like activity, staff management, and of course the LS inventory solutions to allow you to do stock taking and so on. And it's based on the standard Microsoft and LS Retail platform, which is available in many international markets. So I want to thank you all for attending this webinar. Bye-bye.